Good morning, YouTube prepper friends. This is Lee, the Cold War prepper. What do you think of my new coffee cup? Can't wait for it to get washed so I can start using it. I've been using my Key Principles coffee cup now for, 30 years. I used to be an instructor teaching DDI, Development Dimensions International Leadership, and problem-solving training. This morning I want to comment on something that I was just exposed to. And I'm really getting concerned that we're focusing way too much of our efforts on pointing the fingers and blaming and not focusing enough on what can we do to survive what's coming. So I was on this, and the video was of a British accented woman who was saying the U.S. is bad, that we've invaded 22 countries over the course of our history. And so, and of course, yes, we have. We had a president for 8 years who went around the world apologizing for bad USA. We've got a vice president who has now been apologizing for bad USA for a year. And yes, I guess it all depends on your term of invasion. In June 6, 1944, we invaded France. Yes, we did. We invaded Belgium. We invaded Holland. We invaded Germany. And yeah, guilty. Very guilty. In 1951, U.S. forces landed at Incheon and invaded South Korea after it was occupied by North Korea. In 1963, we began the invasion of South Vietnam against the aggressor North Vietnamese, who were sponsored by China and Russia. So we've done it several times. We invaded Panama and took out Noriega and his drug cartel that was sending drugs internationally. We also took out Grenada. We invaded Grenada after communist revolutionaries went into Grenada and occupied the country and held several student doctors hostage. So we've done some bad things, and I want to confess to that. Dan, saya mau tahu bagaimana kita membuat di dalam Indonesia. She also said that we invaded Indonesia. And so that was Indonesia. My first job as an intelligence analyst was as an Indonesian intelligence analyst. And at that time we had President Sukarno. And so I would like to know, since I started out Indonesian and then I went to Russian, I would like to know how, when, where we invaded Indonesia, as this speaker claims. I am unaware of any U.S. troops ever anywhere in any Indonesian owned area. It was the Dutch East Indies until 1945, and then it became Indonesia. Actually, it's pronounced Indonesia, but we pronounce it Indonesia. And so, I mean, they went anti-Dutch to the extent that in 1972 they changed their spelling system, because it used to be like President Sukarno, it was S-O-E, the U was the Dutch O-E instead of the U, and then they changed over to the Malay spelling system in 1972, where it's Su, it becomes S-U instead of S-O-E. Ch used to be T-J, and now it's just a C. But anyhow, I would like to know when, where, and how, according to the speaker, we invaded Indonesia. So the reason I bring this up is because I want you to ask questions when you see things. Don't take them at face value. The U.S. is not as bad as a lot of people want to make it out to be. We are not the aggressors that a lot of people say we are. And shame on you if you advocate that we are. I mean, there's still some questions about Iraq. I know that one of the divisions that was in my corps found 152 millimeter and 122 millimeter GB blood agents and 152 millimeter VX agents, nerve agents. And when we presented the facts to Congress, Nancy Pelosi said, but those aren't the weapons of mass destruction you were looking for. When Blix went in and did his inspection of Iraq prior to the invasion, he was allowed to look at 13 different places, and he came back and said, I don't see any weapons of mass destruction in these 13 places in this big country. But he wasn't allowed to investigate any of the places we asked him to investigate. So, I mean, facts are facts, and you can look at it from either way. You can take You can say, yeah, he didn't find anything, but yeah, he wasn't allowed to investigate anything either. So, how do we handle this? So please use discernment. Please ask questions. Just recently, I got in trouble on another site because it's a military site, and they were saying that look at all the destroyed Russian equipment, and not one piece of equipment had the telltale V, which is the white V invasion marking, which was from the forces coming down from the north and Marine forces coming up from the south, or the Z, which is the forces coming in from the Crimean Peninsula and the Donbass area. So every force had its own special invasion marking. If you look at pictures of the U.S. forces when we went ashore in Normandy, all of our aircraft had the 3 white bars on the wings. Those are called invasion markings, so that you don't have friendly fire against your own aircraft. Well, same thing with friendly fire, especially if both Russia and Ukraine use the same Soviet equipment. You got to find a way to identify which one's friend and which one's foe. So all these destroyed equipment that they showed didn't have those markings. And then I've also been curious why there haven't been any dead bodies shown. Only of civilians, none of the military. If we've killed 13,000 people, you'd think you'd see a body here or there. But anyhow, just questions I continue to ask. So I haven't formed an opinion yet because my questions haven't been answered. But I do know this much. I know enough to where I'm not going to take some random piece of propaganda and use it as a way to undermine the U.S. We've got 3 major problems that we're looking at right now. We've got food shortages coming up. We've got economic problems like you would not believe coming up, especially since China and Saudi Arabia agreed yesterday to use the yuan for China and 5 other countries' purchases of oil. That's going to be a major economic impact. Read Dalio's book, The Changing World Order. That's coming to fruition with this agreement, and and the yuan is going to be the new reserve currency, which means we're going to have worthless dollars in the very near future. We'll be pretty much like the Weimar Republic from 1923 until 1932, I believe, where you're going to use wheelbarrows full of dollars to buy stuff. We've also got a minister from from Russia, and this is one guy, so don't make a whole bunch out of it yet, but this is one guy who made a demand that the U.S. return Alaska to Russia, that we return Fort Ross, which is about 70 miles north of San Francisco. It's kind of the heart of that gold rush. That was Russian at one time, and he wants it back. He's also demanded that we turn over Antarctica to him. So, I mean, there's crazy stuff going on throughout the world. Don't make more of it than is there. Take it for face value. This is one guy who does not, as a, it's the same thing as we've got, what's his name, Lindsey Graham? Anyhow. We've got that one guy from South Carolina, and he's asked for somebody to assassinate Putin. That's not the position of the U.S. government. That's one crazy legislator making a stupid statement, and I think that this other guy, it's the same thing. It's one crazy legislator making a stupid statement. Where should we be focusing our efforts? Not on pointing fingers, not on hatred, not towards each other incrementally. It's your fault or it's their fault or anything else. Look for facts. Use the facts, judge the facts, but really, is it really that important who's at fault? What's really important is, how are we going to survive this? How are you and I going to make it through to the other end, and how are we going to rebuild society based on love, acceptance, and truth once this is all over? That's the important part, and that's where I want to focus. So I try to stay away from the political and religious debates as much as possible, simply because I want to focus on, let's prepare for inevitable bad things happening. How can we reduce the effects of those bad things, and how can we help each other survive and rebuild a better society at the end? So with that, remember, we're all in this together, so we can get out of this together. Take care. This is Lee. Bye-bye.